Hi, and thank you for watching Targeted West. Our website is targetedwest.com. We're a peaceful work group that gets together every week and talks about Fourth Industrial Revolution technologies and stuff like V2K, directed energy weapons, such like that. Gang stalking. It's a peaceful work group, like I said, and the opinions of the guests and the participants are that of their own and not that of DJ Chris and Targeted West. This is show number 183. It's 10/19/2025, and the book club has a book by Patrick Wood about technocracy, so that's cool. The temperature right now is around 76 degrees here in beautiful Lodi, California, and we have a guest tonight, Robert R., and he's here to share with us his art and his ideas and his discoveries. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Robert. Hey, come on in.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me at Targeted West. It's an honor to be here. I've been looking forward to this day. I was like counting down the days, I feel like I have a specific message that should be heard for TI as a message of hope. That I think that they would be possibly benefit people, and I think that maybe what distinguishes me from a lot of different people is not very much, because everyone can do what I do. It's just a matter of knowing what to do, I think. But I believe that, I have a better plan, so to speak. I think that everything is leading up to a possible war, and I have an alternative to that that's better. Like a peaceful, I would say, God-centered plan. In other words, so basically, I'm not religious really, but I do believe in God. That's pretty much all that. I kind of, I guess, want to say about that for now. But the thing of it is I've been thinking about what to say ahead of time, and I was thinking that, when we have discussions about the phenomenon known as gang stalking, domestic espionage, signature reduction force, Zersetzen, asymmetric warfare, whatever you want to call it, the discussion about those particular names that lead to the phenomenon are not necessarily the same discussion that one would have about solutions or the realm of solutions. I personally believe that every solution has by logic, every problem has a solution, rather. And I know that's a hypothetical conjecture, but I feel like I have the logical framework to back that up. So when it comes to gang stalking itself, why would I be targeted? And the thing of it is, it's I don't know. Some people might ask me, well, why am I targeted? Why are you even on the program? And the answer to that is I don't know, because they don't tell me everything. They make inferences and they make suggestions a lot of times about certain things, but I ultimately can't lean on my own discernment on the matter, and I can't make that decision up. What really is going on behind the scenes in these high level, intelligence agency level stuff. But I have a belief about maybe who I am as an individual. I'm very outspoken. I discuss things I talk about the perils of Satanism and how there's a satanic agenda that was announced several years ago to enslave humanity, and a full spectrum dominance plan type thing. So I'm outspoken about that type of thing, and I think that in lieu of that, when you consider the fact that I am outspoken and couple that with maybe my skills and talents, the things I'm good at, like technology. I have about 8 years experience in computer drafting as a technician, the person who draws things, plans, 3D objects, stuff like that, machining, CNC router, stuff like that. That's what my shop's all about, my art pretty much. I'm also good in computer programming. Not only that, but I'm a musician. I went to Berkeley Music School. I was a very talented musician, very skilled musician. And I feel that by virtue of the talents I have, what I know about the program, I guess, and my outspoken nature, I think they put me on the list somewhat in those regards. There's other reasons too, because I feel that maybe from a family lineage, maybe I think that there's something to do with that maybe they looked at that somehow and they put me on a list because of that as well. I think that's possible. And I think that like there's a reason, but the thing of it is like that's all hypothesis. I don't really know. I'm hypothesizing, and ultimately I don't know the answer to that. But otherwise, like what I do, like I said, I'm an artist also. I make portraits. I have made various nice portraits, and I do portraitures and oils primarily. I do computer programming, and and people have told me, artists don't make good technicians. That's what they told me. But I got all A's in their course, and I graduated ahead of time. Turned an 18th month program into 15, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that why I've been targeted has to do maybe not just my technical ability, but kind of like my abstract reasoning. Maybe I think that folk factors into things. I think they take an aggregate score, and they look at that aggregate score. I think that's really what it is. I'm going to really distract. There's a lot of messages at the bottom. I don't know how to turn this off. No, let's see. Let's see what I got here. Turn off notifications. Okay, cool. I got it.
Just unclick chat. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So another thing is that when we're first targeted, we don't really have the lexicon of discussion to talk about things. We don't know what it's called necessarily, and when we're first targeted, we think it's demons maybe, or it's narcissists. But I don't think those are safe words to really use. I think that when you're looking at this phenomenon, let's call it what it is. They're government contractors. And I think that a lot of them are having ultimately a change of consciousness. I think it's strange to say that, but I think I've noticed that some of these folks are actually, it's strangely enough, they're starting to get tired of this, I think. And like they're getting like, I get the feeling like they're almost like having a moral objection to it. They're realizing they're going down the wrong path. I think some of them are. Not everybody, but some who've been there for longer times, I think. And I know that to get into the program, to be a domestic espionage agent, some of these folks are financially trapped. They're swinging on stripper poles, hoping to get some house on the hill, and they can't feed their own family maybe, and maybe that's why they feel forced into the situation. So they go ahead and they target their neighbor, ruin people's lives, because they feel trapped or whatever. I think it's a possibility, but with me, I'm saying on my channel that I feel like I found a solution to this madness that we call gang stalking, at least one or many solutions. But in order to understand that, I kind of have to go through a rabbit hole of information, of context. So I'll start where I can think the best place to start. I think, so there's this magazine. Have you ever heard of Forbes magazine, Forbes Financial magazine? Actually, many people have, I'm sure.
Yes, I have.
One of the editors for the magazine, Benjamin Fulford, he was a previous Asia Pacific bureau chief for Forbes magazine. And what happens, he was talking about this story about a large amount of gold that went missing. And I think what happened was China had given it to the U.S. and for some kind of altruistic purposes or humanitarian purposes. And now it's like they want it back or something, or some kind of arrangement like that. So there's a court case about that. So what happens is this guy who I follow online called a researcher named David Wilcock, he picked up the story. They know each other. And he picked up the story, and he started talking about how, like, it's true, it's real, it's a very important story. He called it the $1 trillion lawsuit to end financial tyranny. That's the name of his expose. And subsequently, he was called by, I guess, some very sinister organizations that put some real huff on him and tried to scare him a lot, actually. They tried to intimidate him. And he was on the radio, and he was crying, and he's, like, in tears. And he was called by this mysterious person who I'm not really, I guess I don't really know the name of, but he didn't give his name, I don't think. But he just reassured David that he was going to be safe as long, and he told him that we'll be watching things. And so later he talked about how this. He mentioned some things related to domestic espionage, but he mentioned something that was key insight at one point. He talked about a specific rule. And he said that there's basically a rule that we go by. It's a very simple rule. And he says if you tell the truth and don't compromise the privacy of other people, then you are basically as safe as if you're near a bank vault in a bank vault full of gold, or you're not to be interfered with, basically, if you abide by these rules 100%. So me being the thinking kind of guy, I adapted that sort of rule thing to say, well, how does it reflect with domestic espionage? Because I'm getting like targeted in the library. I go to the library, it's all quiet, and then people start sitting next to me, raising fuss and stuff like that. Civil servants roll up in the library, sit next to me on a table nearby. I get lots of cold stares. I mean, a lot of different stuff was going on to the point where I was like starting to maybe, I don't know, like it was, I'd say it's a higher level of gang stalking back then than what I experience now. So the strategy that I use is based on these two rules. And I know this is a discussion about solution, and it's not really a discussion about the problem per se, because my web page, my YouTube presence doesn't really talk about the problem, the bars of the cage so much. I'm trying to do on my channel is discuss, have a different discussion that might not even sound like gang stalking terminologies, because it's kind of going outside the box of what gang stalking is understood to be. Like you have the idea of, like if you talk about cancer and you understand cancer, it's a different discussion than maybe understanding a cure for cancer, or any type of solution-based approach to it. So it's like, in this respect, like I'm going to be talking about some things that are going to sound a little different to a lot of TIs, and I guess like just hang in there with me if you can, because what I'm trying to do is portray some kind of solutions-based approach to navigating this domestic espionage program that we're faced with, and I'm trying to provide an alternative plan to a potential war that could happen. And I'm thinking that if it escalates, escalates, that's the route I think we're going to go to. But I think there's a better plan, like I said, and it's not going to sound like normal gang stalking conversations about that type of stuff, I don't think. So basically, the guy gave a simple rule, okay, and he's basically a representative of an organization, and the organization, I put the link in the chat, is basically, for lack of a better word, they manage societies, and they're bigger. Let me give you a quote from what he said, or something like it. He said like something like, one day, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm kind of emphasizing something he said earlier. One day, the villains will be gone and vanquished forever, but it takes worlds of time to really get to that point. And one day, the people of Earth will be, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting directly, shining in rainbows. But getting there will be a challenge. So be mindful of your family and stay positive. That is the way forward. So I built like these strategies on these two rules: tell the truth and don't compromise people's privacy. The problem is that a lot of times TIs, I've noticed through what they say online, that a lot of times they're lying. What they're saying is not true. A lot of times they seem like they're saying things that are not true. And it might be something as stupid and simple as like saying, oh, well, it's raining cats and dogs out there. What's a figure of speech? It's literally not raining cats and dogs. So technically it's a white lie or a figure of speech. It's like nothing, right? But I believe that there's a certain I believe that the intelligence agencies actually exploit stuff like that. Like they go after a certain liability, and they target, I think, a certain liability that TIs do have, and that has to do with liability of what I call subterfuge, or basically deception. If a TI engages in either self-deception or deceiving others, I personally believe that the intelligence agencies will hone in on that and will target TIs a little bit more in proportion to that, as per their receipts or their proofs that they have, or recordings that they have of TIs saying this and it not being true. A lot of times TIs will say things and it'd be like it's belief based, and they don't say how to believe this. They say, oh, well, this is true, he's a perp. They don't know this. They make assumptions and they claim them to be true. And that's a problem area, because if you're going to say something with absolute certainty, it had better be true. And if you don't think it's true or possibly true, you should say I believe, because that qualifies it a little bit differently. So these domestic espionage agencies, or whatever, the internal affairs, or I don't know, the the intelligence agencies rather, they target, I believe, TIs on 2 liabilities I'm aware of. I think so. I think, and one of them has to do, like I said, with the liability of subterfuge or deception. Okay, lack of telling, like not telling the truth, refusal to tell the truth, even is probably even problematic. But I think the other one has to do with a certain type of trespass, the trespass of personal privacy boundaries. So if a person has, like, everyone's different, everyone is different one to another slightly. And so what one person may consider to be a privacy trespass, another person might not be considered to be a privacy trespass. And so therefore it's like, who's the wiser? So it has to do with, like, if you're a landowner, you post your boundaries on your privacy, on your space, so you can actually enforce liability if you need to. Otherwise, if you don't post your boundaries, it's like you're leaving it up to your enemies to determine that for you. So I think one of the first things that TIs have to do if they want to be solutions oriented is, I know that I know the trauma is real. I know it's difficult. It's hard to think about solution when you're in pain sometimes. I get that. I know. I guess, but I think that the first thing that they have to do, one of them is they have to declare what it is that they do not consent to on the level with the domestic espionage agencies. I know they probably won't respect that, but I think that's the first step that you have to do. If you can't do that, maybe you're under duress, you're in a situation where you're being hospitalized or something like that, and you don't feel safe to say that, oh man, that's a situation. That's a rough one right there. But I mean, how do you navigate that is because I think that you have to acknowledge with these perps, the people who are the whoever, whatever, you have to tell them, I think they have to know on some level that you don't consent to this, that, you don't consent to food tampering, you don't consent to mail tampering, you don't consent to, domestic espionage protocol, you don't consent to, tailgating, whatever campaign they might use against you, whether it be DEW attacks, or whatever. You have to, they won't respect it probably, but at least they'll have that information that they know what it is you don't consent to. So, when it comes to solutions, I'm providing a metaphysical solution. Okay, this is not your typical. I mean, this is not what, like, you go to court, and you you go to court and you file a complaint. I mean, because they don't even have a procedural category to define a target individual. If you try to go to a court, they're like target individual. The only hope you have is domestic espionage subject. If you go to court, there's no procedural category that defines being a target individual. So it's like, in other ways, court systems are like, if they were really involved in solving problems, they probably wouldn't have jobs anymore. So that's another thing to think about there. If like these court systems were all about solving the problems, would they still have jobs? And so I think that when it comes to, there's like, I had this thought, it trailed off, but there was this. I mean, my targeting basically has went from, like, over the years, when it first started, when I didn't know what it was, there were all these cars that were showing up behind me in traffic that all had the same color. They would time the arrivals when I went to the grocery store. There'd be like, heavy civil servant officers and stuff like that showing up at like exact locations and time when I drove by. They would pull out a lot of different things, and in a lot of ways, a lot of that stuff tapered off later into my life. And it's like I'm about like 20% riding on 35, 25%, maybe low 15%, sometimes 10%. I mean, it's just low right now. It's not really, I'm not dealing with anything. So I believe that that's a result of this specific strategy that I implemented, where I exploit, their responses, whether they are basically honest or dishonest, or whether they, like if they do invade my privacy by, getting to my systems or something to DOS my systems, which I don't consent to, that's an avenue right there. So like I said, this is a metaphysical solution that I'm presenting, or a basis for other solutions that I'm presenting. So it's like you can always create your own solution based on this framework if you can resonate with this. But like, could I ask you a couple questions, Chris? A few questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you believe in the one infinite creator? the reality?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mother Nature.
Okay, so I think that's helpful because my method does kind of hinge upon the idea that it's real, and that heaven is real, and that the center of heaven is the one. So it's like it kind of builds upon that notion. So having that is really good. It's going to help me to understand. Chris, do you believe that extraterrestrial life is real?
I believe archons are real.
Okay, I'm not familiar with archons, so I don't know what that is.
Archons are spiritual demons that attach onto your soul and take you down with negative talk through the V2K.
Okay.
It is possible that we are, as a government, involved with people from people that are another entity from another place. I really do believe that. That's possible, yes.
I think you're right about that. I think that the government is involved with NHI, non-human intelligences, that don't have our best interest, that treat us like cattle potentially, and want to farm us and sell some black markets for our meat or whatever. Whatever case may be. There's dirty ones down there that want to ruin our lives. I agree with you that. But the thing that I want to add to that is I think that many of the NHIs are actually benevolent. They want to help humanity. I think that they care about us. And I think that there's groups of them, agencies of those folks out there that many of them look just like us, humans, but I think that they're out there, if you can get in contact with them or whatever. I believe that they can be benevolent. But anyway, back to the solution thing. So I think that having these two beliefs is helpful in looking for solutions, because ultimately TIs I don't think are going to find the solutions to the problems within the box that we know to be gang stalking, like understanding the program, as Bill Binney had talked about, as a former NSA spy chief, he knows what's going on with that, and I think that he has a great deal of information about that. However, I think that when we talk about the lexicon, the discussion of solution, it's a different. We're going to have to go outside the box pretty much to solve the thing, I think, and there is a solution to it. But the way that I kind of advise people or try to teach people what to do in relationship to gang stalking, I think that maybe one of the first principles is you have to have love for yourself, other people, and for the one ultimately. And I think it's a good starting point. But beyond that, it comes down to, like, a lot of times what I do is I ask questions. Like I will address. I don't know how familiar you are with my work or my information I put on YouTube, but I try to ask.
I haven't seen. I'll try. I've seen you on Roy Teacup's call before, and I listened to you there.
Okay. So basically, the thing of it is like I try to have a certain set of questions they're linked to personal suspicions that I have about other people, whether it be TIs or perps or whatever, perps, mainly perps, basically. But I have to be pissed off to really do anything. So the thing of it is like, they used to show up behind me in line when I went to the grocery store, like people who dressed in like uniforms and were, insignias to show that they're their position in government or something like that. They used to line up behind me, and I used to get angry about that. So it's like, in order to address that situation, well, let me give you a recent situation. Okay, so I was in line at a food place somewhere. Okay, I was standing in line, and I was getting something for a family member. Okay, so this lady, she's standing right behind me, like freaking 1.5 feet away from me, like she's smelling my hooker. What's it called? Hooker bath. What's it called? You take the bath. Sorry. Okay, my bad. Sorry. She was smelling my cologne effectively. Okay. And it seemed like that's what she was doing. And I turned around to her. I said, "Hi there." And she had a nice smile on her face. I said, "How you doing?" She goes, "Good." Really? She's doing good? Really? Doesn't seem like she's doing good. She seems like she's doing evil, actually. But I didn't say that. And so I asked her, like, why are you standing so close to me in line? It seems like you're, like, I think she asked me how I was doing. I said, well, I'm a little pissed off, actually. I'm angry and pissed off. And it's like, why are you standing so close to me in line? And she goes like, I don't know. Really? You don't know? Like, another lie right there, okay? So I asked her, ma'am, please back up off me, please, okay? And then she did. I mean, she's like an elderly lady, not someone who you want to be, have a grudge against, because she seemed like a nice person, but these people are not, we know this, right? So part of the solution is doing it in a way that's polite. You got to be like, you can't be like all gruff about this. And when you approach them, when I approach them, I have a specific protocol that I go by, a specific strategy that I go by, that I repeat, rinse, redo, okay, every time. First, I acknowledge when I have a triggered emotion. I acknowledge when they get to me, right? When there's something in my environment that triggers me, I acknowledge that. That's the first thing I do. Then what I do is I say, I just think like, do the program, or what's it called? Do the method or something like that. I say like, and then like I turn around and I say, hi there. Specifically, I use those words, hi there, because I want them to know kind of that it's kind of coming from the same source. So hi there, and they go, how are you doing? And they usually say something like, oh, I'm doing good, which is a kind of a lie, because either they're not. Other people, can you think they're happy? They're not really happy individuals. They can't be happy people very much. They're probably not doing very good. And in the moment, they're doing evil. So they're doing evil if they're trying to tailgate you. They're doing evil. They're tampering with your food. They're doing evil. They're tampering with your mail, et cetera, et cetera. So they're not doing good. That's probably a lie. So check, good job. So the thing of it is I try to get them to answer questions that are based in personal suspicions that I may have about them. And I put pressure, social pressure in a way, or I kind of ask questions that I'm all suspicious about. Like hey man, like are you involved in the whole gang stalking TI thing? Like are you involved? Are you getting paid by a third party to do these and say these kind of things? Are you trying to spread rumors? Are you a spy? Are you like trying to really doing that on purpose? I used to work in a dishwasher place. Did you throw those dishes on the table on purpose? Did you walk across my floor I just mopped? Did you know I just walked across that floor? Did you do that on purpose? Somebody paid you to do that? And I formulate the suspicion about what they're doing first. And then I ask the question later. So if I think or suspect that they're a perp, or they're paid to do that, or they're doing this because like someone told them to, or like they're paid to do it or whatever, I'm going to come out and ask them, like, why you got stink face, man? Like, why? I just came in the room. Why not I smile and wave, Why are you looking at me like that, And sometimes, it does kind of get me into trouble sometimes, maybe. It's not the objective. You want to avoid getting into trouble. That's the best thing. You want to avoid getting into trouble as best you can. But I think that what I do is I persist. A little bit of thing here. Something going on with the visuals. I persist. Something's going on back with the visuals right now. I persist in the sense of asking questions that are deeply linked to the suspicions I have about whoever, whatever I'm dealing with in the present moment. And a lot of times, I'm not trying to find the answer because I kind of think I might already know the answer, but I'm asking because I want to get what's called a claim. I call it a claim. A claim is basically a statement of either a fact or it could be fiction. It could be one or the other. But the objective is to get a solid statement that can't be misconstrued other ways, that can't be misinterpreted, that can't basically be no margin of interpretation. It can't be something that I could later think, oh, maybe they meant this, or later they meant that. So it has to be exact, explicit, precise. Okay, yes or no is a perfectly good answer, a claim. Okay, so I'm trying to find a statement they would say, and a lot of times they'll defray, they'll defract, they'll go into other realms, they'll distraction, all this other stuff they'll throw up, intimidation tactics, like some of them just won't say anything, but I'll try my best to get a specific claim from them. And the truth of it is that if they lie to me, I think they're putting themselves in danger. I'll be honest. Like, I think at that point they could be dealt with maybe by some mysterious force in the universe that we call the One, maybe, or maybe the protection of the One might leave them or something like that. The angels might just leave them. And if they tell the truth, they might get in trouble with their bosses. So they're kind of caught between the rock and the hard place if they don't answer the question. So the thing of it is like, if they answer honestly, like what they normally don't do, they have done that in the past, they normally don't do that. Like I found this big piece of metal in my food one time, a big twiny piece of metal. right in my rice. I just pulled it out. I recorded the thing. I say, hey man, I found this rice in my food. Did y'all put that there on purpose? And the dude said yes. I didn't know it at the time, but he said it very subtly. He said it real subtly, like he slipped it under the threshold. I wasn't aware of it, and I had to record it and play it back later. He was that smooth, and so he said like yes. And I said, man, can I talk to you for a minute? And it's like I pulled him aside and it's like talking to him in the mall. It's like asked him questions and stuff. But he actually answered honestly. And so people like that, if you got it like that, and you could answer honestly like that. Like the mandate is to tell the truth, okay? And then also the other part of the mandate is, like I said, that really simple rule is to not interfere with people who do tell the truth, or like no one's to be interfered with unless they break the rules. And the rules are simple: tell the truth and don't compromise anyone's privacy. So in that respect, I'm like, man, I don't know what to do with this guy. But what the other people that either like are just they don't answer the question, or they try to hide it. They try to hide the answer, and they clam up and they don't say nothing. They stonewall me, and I'm talking like people in like anybody in office or whatever, local authorities. I used to call my local precinct and ask questions of them, and they stonewall me with stuff. Why isn't there more this here? Why isn't there more that there? Why did y'all show up when I was downtown? And were you trying to tell me something? Was there something you were trying to tell me? And so what? What was that? What were you trying to tell me? Were you trying to convey a message? Or so what? So a lot of times they will stonewall me, and they will refuse to give me the answer that I requested. However, at that point, like once you've done your best to ask them whatever it is that you're suspicious about, that you have about their activities, right? And a good offense is sometimes a good defense. When you've asked them these questions, and they are either refusing to tell the truth, the mandate to tell the truth, refusing to tell the truth. At that point, I believe they have a special liability, and I call it ROE, or to use military parlance, rule of engagement. It's a rule of engagement that acts like a flashpoint of activity that you can basically interfere with these perp activities. And by interference, I mean anything you can't get caught with, okay? So like if you're praying that they leave you alone, or they got divine intervention or something wild will happen with them. Like I know these two perps who I always bring back the conversation. I don't talk like that. I don't feel like talking about that. They probably get upset at me thinking about that. But I mean, like people die, right? And people get into trouble for things. And I've seen people get into like lose shit. And the thing is if these intelligence agencies are losing funds, money, profit, and they're not able to pull off some kind of profit margin for you as a TI, like the only other thing, if they're losing assets consistently on a regular basis, they're going to back off. And the only way they can lose assets on a regular basis, in my mind, has to do with these two liabilities that I mentioned earlier. And trying to sell this to people is not an easy sell, because a lot of times people want to hear down-to-earth, pragmatic, practical stuff that has to do with nuts and bolts. What do I do to solve this in maybe a legal context? Like what do I do to go into the courts to make them stop? Do I do a FOIA request? And I truly believe that a lot of that is just going around in circles. It really is. And I think that like the people who do the FOIA requests and stuff like that, you're not going to solve your problems in a court of law. I don't think so. I mean, I'd be very surprised, but if the police are complicit, if the intelligence agencies are complicit, there's another way to solve it, and it ain't through the courts, I don't think. So, but it doesn't mean taking things into your own hands, because we live in a panopticon, rather. There's like the all-seeing, the old proverbial all-seeing eye that knows what you're doing. You can't get away with anything because you're a TI. And so if you even try to like address the issue or stand up to things, it's like you're going to get like some kind of retaliatory measure. So you have to do it within a certain framework. And I say to people, if you know the rules of the game, you can play the game. But if you don't know the rules of the game, you can't play the game. You shouldn't play the game. And there's like two strategies that most TIs I find are having. It's either kind of deal with it, sit down, don't talk to anybody, and like just do your work, focus, avoid all this other stuff, just forget everything else and just do your work and just get it done and go home, right? But when it comes to this thing, eventually it's going to get so evil that we're going to have to do something. At that point, we should have stand up a long time ago, because when you're faced with this stuff, I'm trying to lay out a strategy that you're going to need when you do stand up to evil. And so, that's what I'm telling people, that, yeah, it might be safe to do that for a while, but ultimately, they want human trafficking everywhere. They want to create a situation of, slavery on Earth, like deeper levels of slavery. And so, that's not cool. I'm not cool with that, So I think that, like, before it gets to that point, we have to be open to other solutions that might come down the pike, whether it be metaphysical solutions, stuff like that, anything that works at all. And maybe explore it and maybe see how you can tailor it to something that might be more, like up your alley with particular ways you want to go about doing things. Like, one of the things I talk about on my channel is headache transference, okay? There's a special physics, I think, that has to do with headaches, that you could actually transfer a headache to somebody else. Now, the way I do it, there's actually, I know that there's an NLP version of headache solving where you kind of visualize, colors, and you close your eyes and you imagine your headache with the shape of it, and it goes away. It works. It actually does. But when I talk about headache transference, there's an element of like, well, it goes somewhere and somebody else gets a headache. Theoretically, in theory, I haven't proven it. I don't know. I could be proven wrong. Okay, but I'm theoretically postulating that there's some kind of way that this headache transference takes place. Let's see, my view got messed up. Gallery view, compact view.
Do you mind if we play a quick, Robert? Do you mind if we play a quick commercial from our friends at TI Events? We'll be right back.
Sure.
Okay, no worries. We're listening to Robert R. If you're listening on your favorite platform, please like, subscribe, and comment. We'll be talking for another half an hour, and we've got the book club coming up. But first, we'll get a word from our friends at TI Events and see what Alex and Jamie are up to. So let's tune in right now and find out. As soon as they come up, of course. Well, that's awfully slow. Well, if my commercial's not working, then I can tell you that TIEvents.org is the place to go. They have plenty of links and conference calls to go to. They have a book club reference. They have meetups and people who get together and use the website to get together for ride shares, for going to DC. She supports everything Targeted Justice is about, which is good. And that's about it. So TIEvents.org is the place to go. Anyway, back to Robert R. and talking about headache transferences.
So I'm trying to find the main screen. I'm kind of lost. I got this new thing here. I got active speaker view, and I can't. It helps me to see my face, so I can kind of. It helps me to. I just kind of went away. Something went away here. I can't find it. But I guess what I'll say is like a good defense, a good offense is sometimes a good defense. And if, like I said, if perps lose assets on a regular basis, or they have complaints on a regular basis of things going awry in their lives, and the hive mind picks up on it, and kind of does the analysis, the AI analysis rather, and figures out that it's not profitable to go after a particular targeted person because all their stuff keeps, messing up. Ultimately, they're going to. I believe that would kind of mean that they would stop targeting the person if there's no profit in it, because it is a profit margin thing. They have to have, I think, some kind of. I mean, at the top levels, it's about control. and the lower levels, it's really about, making money. But I think that there's some kind of numerical value that they go by, that they have analysis for. But I don't know if anybody has any questions. I mean, like, does anyone have any questions right now of anything that I mentioned or anything like that they'd like to ask me?
Yeah, we can switch modes and see if people have questions for you if you'd like.
Okay.
All right, hold on, please. You have a question for Robert, *6, and you can ask, and go ahead, Robert, you *6 too. And you're with TargetedWest.com, and Robert R.
I have a question. I had people stand real close to me. I had people stand real close to me at the post, in the line at the grocery store. They mobbed me there. There was one lady that was right up to my back, an old lady, and I almost backed into her and knocked her over. And I said, "What the hell are you doing here? What's your problem?" Well, I didn't even know I was that close. Sure. Well, then another time, a guy came up, and he's got his head down by my leg. And I'm like, what is that? What are you doing? Yes. He says, I was looking for the newspaper. What is that?
I think we all have a biofield. Our biofield extends. This is Anthony Medina speaking, and this is what I think. I think, say for example, they get next to you. Our biofield interacts with their biofield. So I don't know what you think about that, Robert. If you have anything to say about the medical wireless body area network, because I think that that our biofields can also interact.
Well, I wanted to address the first question that I was asked before the second question. So, what I guess the question is, why do they do that, right? What's the purpose? I believe there's such things as provocations. Like, I call it the tree of provocations. There's the tree of provocations. There's the tree of like isolation. That's another tactic that they use, like to isolate you from all your friends and allies and people and things that you want in life. So they buy all the products off the store. They keep you away from all the things you want and need. So that's isolation. But it's also a tree, like I said, of provocation. Now, the provocation is coming from somewhere, okay? It's not just some dude who's a narcissist, right? You know this, right? They're getting paid from some third-party organization that's affiliated somehow with some secret thing, some way, okay? So the tree refers to the notion that it's the fruit of the tree is what this perp represents. It's the output. You have a cause and you have effect. The effect is the output, and it's the fruit of the tree. So a lot of times you can pluck the fruit of the tree of provocation and take a bite, so to speak, metaphorically, but you haven't hewn down the actual tree. You haven't taken the axe to the tree and whacked it a few times. So in order to do that, my suggestion, my advice to other TIs is to contact, because you look at the structure, okay? You have NGOs on the bottom level, non-governmental organizations, people in the community who know people, connected networks, okay? Those in turn are hired by fusion centers. Fusion centers are the ones who put your name on the list with the NGOs. So that's the more the root of the fruit of the tree. So in terms of provocation, you could either contact your local fusion center because you don't know the NGO name, and you could possibly ask them, hey, do you guys, are y'all sending me, like, however you phrase it, I would just say flying monkeys that are coming after me to try to piss me off. You would probably say it better than that. But I'm just saying, like, are y'all trying to provoke me in some way? And when you ask them these questions of, like I say, high agencies that are near the root of the tree, like the intelligence agencies that are at the root of the tree, the fusion centers, what do they call it? The other one, I can't remember the name. and you ask them questions that if they had aligned with your suspicion. Okay, so are y'all like trying to harass me to get me to get angry so that you provoke me in public so that the recording can be made so that the manager will see the recording and therefore I'll be kicked off the premises? Like, that's a possibility. Like, you ask them that. And so when you ask them these questions, they know the answer to them, of course. They're not going to tell you the truth, most likely. They're going to squirm a little bit, but they're going to probably lie if you do it well. If you do it good and you seem like you maybe don't know what you're talking about, they might lie to you outright and think you're naive. That's a good thing, actually, because when they lie, what happens is a portal of interference opens up into their lives when they lie. You see, the one infinite creator has given us the ability to influence our realities. And a lot of times we as TIs don't really have the right or the lawful jurisdiction to influence our realities because, well, the creator allows free will too. So the thing of it is when they lie, actually that opens up a portal, I believe, of interference that you can actually pull the strings in some way, and in effect it would discourage future involvement. That's what I call going at the root of the tree of provocation. So like it doesn't always set with everybody. Like I start talking about these things, and it's like a new dimension in a way, and so it's not something that everybody's really keen on yet. But I think that this is what's proven to be my effective thing in this situation. And somebody else asked another question too. I want to address that too. Do I think it's biofields?
W bands, yes, wide body area network.
So in terms of like osmosis, like we're like spiritual beings, and we're energetic beings. We're emotional beings too. And a lot of times, what happens is people, they will equilibrate. Basically, whoever has a high emotion will equilibrate with a low emotion, and they'll kind of balance out in a way. So that's a form of osmosis. What I think they're doing a lot of times when they get close to you is they want to cast all their burdens on you. Effectively, maybe they're not feeling good, and they want to by osmosis maybe equilibrate so that maybe they don't have to deal with some stuff. It's like a mystical, magical thing that I think they're trying to do.
Yeah,
that's what I suspect, actually, but I don't know if that's true. But it's a good question to ask. I think that ultimately, when you're dealing with perps and you're dealing with like the fruit of the tree of provocation, you can start addressing things on the ground level, on the level of effects, how it comes into your life. But you could also start dealing with things on the causal level, which is like the intelligence agencies, those people who are doing the stuff to tell them what to do. And when you start doing that on the administrative level, they start taking notice, and they start losing assets, and then they start to leave you alone. My theory has been proving true for me. So I want to help other people. Ultimately, I like to counsel people on how I do this kind of stuff, because having an hour here, hour there is good, but it doesn't really give the full understanding to some people who might want to know more. But I'm not really charging. I'm just like, say, hey, look, I just want to help humanity and talk with other TIs. Because TIs are like my family, because y'all are the ones who understand what I'm going through on a level, because you've had, your deal, and like you're talking about people coming. When I say like this stuff is organized, you guys believe me, and I have to convince other people. But I mean, in that sense, y'all are like family to me. So, but if any, I guess, any questions y'all have, please feel free.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions? Yes, any more questions for Robert?
Yes, thank you.
I hear you. Come on in.
Thank you so much for this great time. I wanted to know a little bit more when you were saying about taking things on yourself. And at the time you mentioned it a few minutes ago, it was a negative. And I was thinking, so my question is, what are things that you may not want to do? And I want to just throw out a couple of examples, just in general, such as, maybe you mentioned this earlier because I joined later, but let's say if a perp is in their car and, you're able to just wave at them or just do something silly, is that a positive or negative towards agitating them in the right way? Or else, my second example is, trying to take pictures of them in your house or something. or have parents?
I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time hearing you. I can't hear what you're saying.
Okay, let me try. Can you hear? Is this better?
That's a lot better, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so I was asking about things not to do that kind of will boomerang and either create a bigger attack or whatever. And I think one example is, say if somebody's in their car with their lights and somehow you're close enough, you just do silly things like mock and wave at them and say, hey, thanks a lot, or
It sounds like you got a really good question, but I can't hear what you're saying. But it sounds like you got a really good question. I want to hear what you're saying.
yeah.
I wish I could hear what you're saying. I can't, though. Could you try again, maybe?
Yeah, I'm turning the V down and I'll come back. Is this better too?
It's a little better. A little better.
Okay, it must be very good, a bit. But I was saying, what are good ways to agitate? And because I didn't want to,
Okay, let me point something out. It's not really good. You don't want to set your intention to agitate them. Okay, that's a byproduct. That's a natural byproduct, but it's not your intention going forward. I don't think that's a good intention to have. The intention really has to do with obtaining claims from them. Your objective is to in order to free yourself, you have to seek. I say requesting the truth on my channel. It's called Request the Truth. I want people to request the truth, not actually speak necessarily, talk the truth. I mean, I want that both. But when it comes to some of the things that you would do with TI-related stuff, agitating them is not the objective. It's a byproduct. It's a natural byproduct sometimes. But when you seek the truth, you request the truth of these people and what they're doing and what their intentions are, specific to you, and like what their agenda is, or are they paid to be there, stuff like that. When you seek to hear from them what the truth is, you start to turn the tables around, because you're not coming from this with having the burden of proof on your back, saying this is what I think is going on. Okay, you're coming at this with a sense of like, hey, you tell me what's going on. You tell me. You ever heard of the National Enquirer, the magazine, the National Enquirer? I think it's a modern prophecy personally, but think of it this way: the whole nation starts really trying to get this truthful thing with other people, trying to figure out what they're about. Like, are they paid to be here type people? And when you seek that specific truth, yeah, they might get agitated. They might start to freak out a little bit. They might start to act like that. But the thing that's a byproduct, and it's a sign you're on the right track, I think, maybe. But I don't know. It's not really what you're intending to do, because I try to say it like this: you want to come off being polite as possible, okay, and you want to be like as loving, effectively, as possible. As strange as that may sound, because there's an old saying that says, what's it? Vengeance is mine, thus saith the Lord. Now, I don't know if God actually takes vengeance on people. I don't know about that, but I do know that I do believe this: that sometimes that the protection that people have will leave them, that they take for granted if they do certain things. Let's say a person has like holy guardian angels around them that protect them, right? But the fact is when they start to lie about specific things, you kind of have that jurisdiction. You can talk to these angels and say, hey, could you leave them alone for a little bit, please? Could you go away? And it's possible they might leave them alone, or talk to God. I'm sorry, I said wrong. Please forgive me. Talk to God about that and ask God, look, God, I think this person lied to me. I think they lied to me straight up, okay? And I'm just asking, I don't know this for certain, but I'm suspicious they did. If they did lie to me, God, could you take their angels and move them away from them from a little bit, their holy guardian angels, and shuffle them away for just a little bit and see what happens? You know, that kind of thing. And that does, I think, happen, because I've had two perps that I've known that I was doing this kind of work with or whatever, you know, talking with them and asking them questions, investigating them. Like two guys I know died. Actually, one was murdered, and one was found dead in his apartment. His dogs were chewing on his legs. And so I think he's stinking up the place after he's dead. But the thing of it was, is he's been in that neighborhood for a long time, a long time. And it's a dirty, rotten neighborhood. People get killed there often. And it's by God's grace that I think I got out of this situation, right? But I approached the guy and I said, look, man, look, I'm trying to take my mom to church, and you're showing up here. Like, why are you showing up here like this? Why are you doing that, man? You got an app on your phone or something telling you where I am or something like that? And he kind of laughed and, a big joke, that kind of thing. But the thing of it was is I was trying to find out. That's the difference. I wasn't telling him what he was doing. I was trying to figure him out. That's the difference. And so, when you start asking people these questions, identifying first what you don't consent to, then identify what you have suspicions about related to what you don't consent to, then identify that as a question. Formulate your suspicions in the form of questions and deliver them to who the responsible party you think is. And once you ask that question, watch them squirm for a little bit. Watch them try to dodge that answer. And if they lie to you or you suspect they lie, look, I went home and I said, dear God, I don't know if he lied to me, or creator, prime creator, whatever you call it, alpha, omega. I don't know if he lied to me, but if he did, I'm asking you make it so he don't lie to me again. That's what I asked for. And it happened. Like I said to you, he's found dead in his apartment, dogs were chewing on his legs, and he probably still was stinking up the place. Apparently it was like some kind of overdose, I think. I don't really know. I honestly don't know. The other guy that actually got murdered, he basically, I think he got murdered. I'm pretty sure. He came in there, he had like a satanic hand sign or something like that. So he apparently was connected. It seemed like he was, right? So I took a special interest. I saw him harassing people on the job, right? I saw him harassing. It seemed like he was harassing. Oh, wait, let me take that back. Let me. I'll be honest, completely honest, because I'm going off the rails if I'm not honest. I'm going off the table if I'm not honest. I heard him talking about how much money he made on the job. He would brag about that. And then I think I had receipts to figure out that he was probably targeting people on the job as well. So at one point I was in the back of the dish, my back was hurting. I got like, look, I went to the front of the line and I started asking these questions. Hi there, how you doing? You doing good? Yeah, I'm doing good. Hey man, listen, I've been watching things. Like, have you been like I know you say you got a lot of money that you make or whatever, right? Have you been like targeting people on the job or something? Like, you've been trying to harass people? And I'm not trying to be rude or nothing. I'm not accusing you of nothing. I just want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. And he's like, don't ever ask me that again. And I was my mouth was agape when I heard he was dead. Okay? So, I asked the creator, please intervene in the situation, because it ain't right to be just sitting working at work and having people mess with you all day. And so the intelligence agencies pick up on this, folks. They find out when they're going into the red, when they're losing assets. They know this stuff, right? And so if they know that the creator is with you, the one is with you, and working things out in your favor, and you know the rules of the game, so you play the game. Come on, I think they start leaving you alone. And like I said, I've been dealing with this stuff for a long time. I've been targeted maybe for like overtly since my job. I was targeted since 2007. I didn't know what it was. Ultimately, I had to figure out what it was. I had to find out the nomenclature. I had to figure out the names. I had to figure out the names for things. And once I figured out it was called gang stalking, I had a clue.
Do you have any more questions for Robert?
Any questions?
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Laura. Can you hear me?
I couldn't hear. What's your name?
Laura.
Noah?
Laura from Colorado. I just wondered what kind of musician were you? What did you play?
A lot of things: piano, bass, guitar, mandolin, accordion, a lot of different stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Right on. Thank you. I appreciate your testimony.
Sure. Anyone has any other questions? I don't know how much time we have here tonight, but if anyone has any questions,
actually, we're at our 1 hour point. So,
okay.
Yeah, if everybody's done with questions, we can go to the book club, which is next, and then if you want to swing back with Robert, we can do that. So the book club starts right now. It's Technocracy Rising, The Trojan Horse of Global Transformation by Patrick Wood. I read it in 2021. I read to page 221. I give it an 8, and I'm going to finish reading it next week. We'll have this book for 2 weeks in a row. That, again, is Patrick Wood. He owns Technocracy News, which is on the internet, and you can check him out. And that's about it for the book club. Now back to Robert.
If anybody would like to contact me personally,
do you have an email or somewhere to contact you? And what's your channel on YouTube?
So my channel is Request the Truth YouTube, and my email is truth505@proton.me. I don't know, like I'd like to start counseling people one-on-one, maybe, and get experience with that. Maybe not charge at first, but maybe just talk with people and try to help them through their gang stalking situations that they're dealing with, and kind of be like, look, this is how I've dealt with it. It might work for you, it might not work for you, but this is how I dealt with it, and it's been effective with me. So, I mean, you know, I guess like that's what I'd like to do is I want to help people. I want to help TIs, you know, to rise above this sense. You know, I want to, because I just don't think it's necessary that people suffer like this. It's not really necessary for a lot of people, you know.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, what a great interview, Robert. It was great to have you by. If anybody else has questions for Robert, I'll bring it on now. Of course, we'll have Robert back again, so if you missed ask him any questions, you can come back next time.
I'd love to. That'd be awesome.
I have a quick question. I was just wondering how you compare gang stalkers to informants, because FBI uses informants, the police use confidential informants. These are some of the terms I've been finding, like articles and stuff about, and whistleblowers.
Well, I mean, they don't wear badges, so how would I know? You know, they could be gang stalkers, maybe they could be informants. They don't really announce their presence, so it's kind of an assumption I would have to make, you know, that there are in proximity to me. But I think that if the memo goes out to not mess with this guy, the memo goes out. You know, it goes out. Don't you know, the touch not thine anointed. You know, the one says, touch not my anointed. And the thing is, it's like, you know, I think that they are losing assets, whether they are gang stalkers or whatever, you know, whatever level of hierarchy they exist within the matrix, so to speak. You know, they're liable for lying. They're liable for privacy compromise, period. And that liability can be exploited. So it doesn't matter if they're gang stalkers. It don't matter if they work for the fusion centers. It don't matter if they're you know, high-level intelligence agencies. You know, like what's it called? I can't remember the name of the agency for some reason. But it doesn't matter, because if they lie, they're liable, right? If they violate privacy concerns, they're liable. And so I just dwell in that sort of zone, and that's I just hone down on them. It doesn't matter either way.
Someone wants to know what kind of conditioner or wax you use on your beard because it looks so good in the chat room.
You know, I don't use conditioner or wax on my beard. I don't. I admit it. But lovely question. Thank you. I use a lot of cologne, though.
You look very good.
Thank you. Thank you. I got a website, too, art505.com. If you want to check it out, support a local TI. So, I don't know. Maybe I should have said that.
Say that one more.
I should ask first.
Again one more time.
I'm sorry. I should have asked first. I'm sorry. It's art505.com. That's my website. My
art505. I think I've been there. Yes, it's a very nice site. It's got all your artwork on it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It does.
Yeah.
Some of it.
Robert is an artist too.
Okay,
well, great. Well, we'll go ahead and end this. Well, yeah. Oh, good. Well, we'll end this recording. Robert will probably stay by for a little bit, and we'll thank the audience on the platforms. Spotify, thank you. YouTube, thank you. BitChute and Rumble, thank you. And then, of course, you'll be on archive. Anyway, thank you for watching on your platform. Please like, subscribe, and make a comment. We'll continue the call, and you don't have to leave yet, Robert. Just